this was an uphill climb from the very beginning. I was in the development of the script for 5.5 years. We went through 9 writers, at least 25 different screenplays.
The original script that we were handed had been through several permutations. It had been in the hands of another director for a while. And it was so far-fetched, I think, that the version I first read, Tommy Lee Jones had hired the one-armed man to kill Harrison because Harrison had messed up an operation on his wife after he had beat her up.
And there were times that everyone would say, "You're wasting your time. Why are you doing this? You're wasting money." Warner Brothers put the property into turnaround. They too were concerned because we had spent about $2 million in writing costs, and they were concerned that this would not ever bear out. And I said, "Listen, I have an instinct about this. My gut tells me that this is going to be a success."
Rarely do you work on a movie where you have the kind of involvement and support of a star like Harrison and the support of the studio. There really was never a budget. There was really never a script for this movie. They just said, "We want you guys to make the best movie you can out of this, and we want it for next summer."
Harrison Ford was my first choice. When I finally had a draft that I thought was respectable enough that I could show Mr. Ford, I gave it to his manager, Patricia McQueenie, and she read it over a weekend, and she came back and said, "You know, Harrison has always wanted to do this, and this screenplay is really quite good, and it's good enough to give to him." I said, "Thank you so much," and she gave it to him, and he came back and said, "I'm going to do it, but it needs work, but I want to work with you on it, and let's make this movie." And the next job we had was to get a director.
I got a call from either Arnold or one of the executives, Lucy Fisher, Bruce Berman, saying, "Harrison wants to meet with you tomorrow." Because Harrison had gone to see Under Siege in Jackson Hole, I believe, over the weekend. And, you know, I had been working for a year on this movie. I was ready to take a break, and then the opportunity came up to work on The Fugitive with Harrison, and of course I couldn't say no to that. And I was very, very flattered and touched that he wanted me to do it.
Well, I'd seen the script maybe 3 or 4 times over the period of the last 5 or 6 years. I'd gone through a variety of changes. And this time it seemed to be very close to an exciting audience kind of film. Of course, we then took it all apart and did a lot of rewrites on it. And we were under the gun throughout the filming to keep up with it script-wise.
When we finally started the movie, we had 3 acts, but the 3rd act couldn't be shot. We had sequences where we had Gerard in an automobile going down into a subway and driving on the tracks, chasing a train that Kimble was in. No one saw how they could possibly do this. We'd get into a hotel room and write script and try to come up with what we were going to shoot when we were ready. And I remembered it was a small hotel room, but we had cards all over the walls depicting every scene in the movie. Because when you move a scene or you create a new scene, invariably it destroys something in an earlier act. So you see it on the wall. And we'd be up all night long and then have to shoot the next morning.
As sometimes happened, we started without a complete script. And we were still working on the script as we were shooting. We were, to some extent, making it up as we went along.
As an actor, Harrison exemplifies the role originally created by David Janssen, in that the people feel for him. When you look at Harrison, you root for him, you like him. There is something about his face, his manner of speaking, that there is empathy right off the bat. Without even knowing what the story is about, you like this man, which means we think the audience will be behind him in his quest for freedom and to prove his innocence.
I've been lucky enough to be involved in a number of films where I was involved in the formative stages. As we said, the script wasn't finished, so I had a very keen interest in how the script was developed and worked very closely with the producer and the director and the screenwriter. to get something that made me comfortable.
Harrison is the most involved actor I have ever worked with on any motion picture, and I've done many to date. He is the consummate professional. He has been involved in the screenwriting. He's been involved in casting, every casting session he has been at. He's involved in costume design, set design. Every aspect of this movie, he is functioning as if he were producing it with me. He will review the action sequences with Andy and actually plot it out with him. There's no doubt that Andy's directing the movie, but Harrison somehow will be able to think about how the action should be staged. And they talk about it, and it's been coming out really great.
I don't really know Harrison. I know Harrison Ford, the movie actor that comes to the set. He at 5 to 7 for a 7 o'clock call. He's incredibly low maintenance. He's not given to idle gossip or chatting or anything like that. He's just very focused on his role and his performance. I never saw him with a cellular phone once the whole movie. He arrives at the location, and assistant doesn't have to go and tell him, ready for makeup at 7 o'clock. He goes into makeup, sits down, gets made up, goes back to his trailer, puts the clothes on that are there for him. He's nobody in attendance, no wardrobe people, no nothing. And then, about 17 minutes past 7, he walks onto the set and says, ready. And they got Harrison Ford sitting there. It's 17 minutes past 7, and he wants to go to work. And boy, you get cooking right away.
He's not just the guy that comes to the set and walks away. Because some actors are like that. Here's a man that really cares about everything and only tries to make the best film possible.
One of the things that I do like to do is to maintain character reality in the context of physical action. Stunts, if you will. I like the talking part, and I like the running part. And so I try to do as much as I can because I think there is the opportunity for expression of character.
Harrison's been an action star in a lot of other movies. And he's a very physical, hands-on kind of guy. So he wanted to do as much as he possibly could.
Normal for me. Running, jumping, and falling down.
Harrison wanted to do most of the rolls down the stairs. He's fighting the one-armed man. It's almost all Harrison. I mean, we had a stuntman for him, but he doesn't use him. At the train crash, the live stunt is Harrison jumping off the train. The dam is Harrison jumping in the close, which we then drop to a dummy. The dummy hits the water. Hopefully to have a shot, which we shot back in Los Angeles in a swimming pool at Warner Brothers studio. They have a swimming pool, and Harrison came over one day when he was in town, and he just said, well, I'll just tussle with the camera. And he literally jumped into the pool off the diving board with the cameraman, holding the camera. And they tussle around in the water, and we had some aerators in there, and it was one cut of that. It's a tiny little cut. It's in the movie. We're filming at the hospital, and Harrison's gotten the railroad man out, and he says he's in tit here, and then the doctors say, how does he know that? And then Harrison jumps in the van. We've got other stuff to do, filming the hospital. And Harrison says to Andy, why don't you let me go with a cameraman, and I'll just do it myself. So Harrison Ford drove off in the ambulance, just as a normal citizen, with a cameraman sitting behind him. He was going for it. He was absolutely going for it. And I mean, you couldn't have choreographed it any better. But it's all Harrison. Harrison in the van driving himself. But that's who he is.
I am the fugitive. Yeah.
All right, please. We felt for a major motion picture, we wanted someone like Tommy Lee that could bring a very physical and dynamic presence to the screen. I wouldn't want to be chased by Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones became Marshal Gerard by having this ensemble of great actors around him who he could be the boss of. When we first started the project, there were some questions why we needed all these marshals around Tommy, and because I felt he made him more of a leader.
Tommy Lee's a wonderful actor, and he really takes his story obligations very seriously. He creates a character that helps tell the story, and he does it in a very unique and powerful way.
And he had his own kind of attitude about the character. He was like, as my friend Paul Brickman, the writer, said, Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive is a force of nature.
So I've never worked with Harrison. I wanted to do that. I've always had a good time working with Andy Davis, and everything added up just fine.
You never know what Tommy Lee is going to say or do. He's extremely bright, very quick thinking, and has a sense of humor. and a very wry sense of humor at times.
Tommy likes to play with the lines, and, you know, when he gets out and says, well, 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 that's not in the script. I mean, it's all Tommy. He got the Academy Award for this role. I mean, you know, it was spectacular.
Roll sound. We're rolling!
The man had the ability to handle a big budget movie. But more importantly, Andy Davis is a fine human being, and he's a collaborative human being. I will not work with a director that does not let me into the creative process. So working with Andy, I have the ability to express my views, to have a thorough consideration, and to feel that I am being listened to, and that some, if not many, of my ideas will be on film.
Andy has had a great success with Under Siege, which I saw and thought was a very good action-adventure film. And it had some humanity and humor. We had a good time working together.
Andy's a good friend. And if I always need a job, if he has something for me to do, I'm going to step right up and do it.
And he shoots from the hip. Just rock and roll.
One more. Nothing more, just like that. That was good.
Harrison met me at the airport in Jackson Hole with Lucy Fisher, and he said to me the first things were going to Chicago.
I was born and raised in Chicago, but I hadn't been back in 10 or 15 years, and it was great fun to be back in Chicago.
If you look back over the films I've made, and even Ebert's even talked about it several times, is that the location becomes a character in the movie. And that definitely was in my mind for this. The idea of this little character being lost in this maze of humanity, trying to hide and discover, was the basis for those aerials that we used in the picture. That you see the city from above, and where is this man that Tommy Lee Jones is searching for, and where is this lost soul trying to discover, what happened to his wife and why he was framed.
The locations are critical, and we spend quite a lot of time looking at locations and making the right decision wherever possible. I think that all locations in The Fugitive is just perfect as it can be.
We're actually in the Hall of Justice in Chicago, but we're using this to double for a federal prison where Dr. Kimble, Harrison Ford, is looking for a one-armed man.
He has some idea that he may be in jail here in the Cook County jailhouse. And the United States Marshal Service has come to the same conclusion from different evidence, and their paths happen to cross right here.
And somewhere after that, there's a chase that the audience will never forget.
We're in a scene where Tommy Lee Jones, Marshal Gerard, is chasing Richard Kimble. And he's gonna trap Richard Kimble and open fire on him and discharge 9 rounds. This here is called the Wood Abergast trunnion gun. It's on air pressure. A wax bullet is put into the cylinder. The cylinders are electrically fired in any order we would like them to be in. We have a laser sight. We slide this on, and it creates a laser beam, and you can see on our target exactly where we want the bullets to be. We have the ability to be over Tommy Lee's shoulder, looking down his barrel and seeing Tommy Lee and Richard Kimble in the same shot, and for Tommy to fire the weapon and for the bullet to discharge at exactly the same moment.
The parade. Well, this is strictly an Andy Davis moment. It's not in the script.
I wanted to shoot St. Patrick's Day Parade as part of the fabric of Chicago because it's huge. They dye the river green, everybody gets off of school almost, it's a major event.
We had no idea that we were going to do this. And there we were in Chicago in March, and the parade was coming up.
And he said, the parade, we should shoot the parade. I thought to myself, parade, what are we going to do with the parade? So I contacted the parade, and I said, look, we'd like to do some sort of wild second unit, unrehearsed stuff with the parade. And the parade guys said, yeah, but, you can't interrupt the parade. So we had a couple of Steadicam cameras, a couple of fixed cameras.
Instead of doing a French Connection type chase through the streets, I said, why don't we use the St. Patrick's Day Parade to get this needle in the haystack idea across again, this man getting lost in humanity. And it was very funny because it's not something you sort of do. You run around with 2 major movie stars and cameras through the city in the middle of a St. Patrick's Day parade.
And so we film in the morning to get the work the company's paying us to do done, and then head over to the parade. We had an early call. We got almost the whole day's work done but so we could do the parade because we hadn't it wasn't scheduled. The studio were not we aren't going to call them and say, look, we need some extra dough to shoot the parade. They're not going to go for that. I mean, you got to do it within your day's work. The way we did it, we shot it all live, totally unrehearsed. The actors just got in the street and did it.
We didn't stage anything. I just inserted myself in the middle of the parade, and we grabbed some free shots, and it was a pretty interesting way to work. And actually, because I had black hair and I looked a little different, I wasn't really recognized for a little while. But we were able to get what we needed before that actually happened.
So it was all dependent on two things. Michael Chapman, the DP, had to be ready with certain camera positions, and Steve St. John, who's this incredible Steadicam operator who I'd worked with on almost all my movies, was able to run around in freezing cold and keep up with the foot traffic with this Steadicam.
When we get into the tunnel where Tommy comes in and says, "We got to go for it," and he goes down the tunnel. The tunnels inside, we built all that. And we built them with traps that could open up, so if we wanted to light, round tunnel and a section would lift up. We never lit it. Andy doesn't, and he likes the feeling of the containment. The Alcoa company that owned the dam, we were shooting all the wide shots and all the exterior stuff, said, look, we'd love to have you guys, but we don't want you here for a lifetime, so can you do it in one day?
They had a section of set, which was the pipe, and they took it and rigged it on top of the dam. Extending over the lip of the dam, so that the camera was able to be placed behind me, and the real background was there. And I had a safety wire that ran down the lowest part of the sewer pipe and went up my pants to a safety belt underneath, so I felt comfortable enough standing quite close to the edge.
So I thought to myself, well, how am I going to do this? So we figured out a way that we could have a flatbed truck. And we built a section on the flatbed truck, and we built it on a pivot so that we literally could drive the flatbed onto the top of the dam and pivot the entire top section of the tunnel around, and there's our set. We put some leggings on it, and we just went and started shooting. I mean, it was going to take weeks to build this thing, so I said, we just do it on a truck. And we finished, we let the water out, we had an arrangement, it was downhill, let water go through it. And when we finished, we just pulled it back and drove it off.
The making of this movie is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And the freedom I had to mold a movie, I think, is unique.
When you make a movie, you don't know that you're making The Fugitive. You know you're making a movie with Harrison Ford in it, it's called The Fugitive. And you got a train sequence you're working very hard on to make special, and you've got a dam sequence, and you've got the end of the movie, and you've got, two great actors in it. But you're not really sure that you're going to wind up with A Fugitive. I mean, I'd be running the studio if I could figure that out.
The work experience to me was a very gratifying one because because whatever the extingent conditions were, I felt that we overcame them, usually at the last moment. It's often the most difficult circumstances that produce some of the best movies.
James Newton Howard's music, I think, was an integral part of the success of the movie. And we ended up with something that I'm extremely proud of.
We hoped to make a successful motion picture. We didn't have any idea we'd be nominated for Best Picture. And the fact it was nominated, I think, for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, was a real thrill for all of us. The fact that Tommy Lee Jones won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor was, it was the third movie I'd done with Tommy, and it was a great cap to a tremendous experience.
You must know the difference between illusion and reality by now.
I just hope that I have the opportunity to make another Fugitive type movie in the sense of the wealth of the experience and the success of the experience.